welcome to All Elite Reviewing, AER, the only show on the internet where you can hear us talk about every show that All Elite Wrestling has right now on the interwebs and on cable TV, which of course includes Dynamite, Dark, Elevation, and soon to be Rampage. I'm Shamik Ghosh.
And I'm Josh Starnes.
And we have another good show ahead of us today. And one thing, we should mention that if we did the show annually, we'd be on for a decade right now because it is our 10th episode.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's our 10th anniversary episode. Party.
Yeah.
Party.
Yeah. I mean, I might get started a little early. Just kidding. I don't have it. It's just water.
So yeah. What do you get for the 10th anniversary? Is that the paper anniversary?
I'm not married. You're the married one. You've been married longer than 10 years. You tell me. What was it?
Oh, no, I can't remember. I barely remember the date.
Paper is such a weird one. Like, you're like, yeah, here you go, honey.
I know, like,
paper ring. I mean, the fanciest thing you can fucking do with paper is make origami. That's what I was thinking.
Give her like an origami ring. Well, wood, right? For wood, you carve a ring or jewelry? I don't know.
He's all the old Saturday Night Live sketch where David Spade was like, not David Spade, Dana Carvey was like the old guy. He's like, everybody liked it. Like, yeah. Our condoms are made out of wood. We got splinters out of them, and we liked it. I'm guessing that's not what goes on to the wood anniversary, though.
I would hope not.
I'm not a scientist. I don't know, but I'm figuring this out.
It's not going to.
So anyway, let's start off with the show, off of this banter, and go right into Elevation. Although we're almost as comparable to Taz and Excalibur over here, we'll let you decide who's which. So Elevation. We start with Jungle Boy Mark Flynn right off the bat.
Good match.
What do you think about this match?
This was really good. I mean, obviously, Jungle Boy's getting that Jungle Boy welcome every time. So and they're going to make sure if he's going to have an actual match and give him stuff to do. But Mark Quinn is probably one of the people who matches up best with him out of everyone who's on the current roster who's around like his area, because they do a lot of the same stuff. They're tall, slim build, doing a lot of high flying and a lot of unique moves. Jungle Boys, spend more time actually, adding grappling to that. Quinn, because he's a tag team specialist, is still doing a lot of like the high flying moves. He still probably got the highest shooting star press that anybody has coming off that top rope. But it's always interesting to see Private Party do singles matches because they don't do them very often, and it moves forward the story that they've been telling across all of AEW the last few weeks of the growing feud between the Hardy Family Office and Jurassic Express and Christian Cage, and that continued. But I thought this was a good match. Out of Elevation was the long show this week, and in a lot of cases it had some fun matches in it, but not anything that really moved the ball forward the way or even its own feuds this week. Although, good God, we did get Joey Janela back again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll
at least he didn't say his catchphrase, but he's back. But this felt more like getting a really good pop from the audience for fan favorites. The Thunder Rosa match was really just a showcase match, but she got like that good pop, the Thunder Rosa pop.
And then Yuka Sakazaki fought Starfire, so that was kind of cool. He's going. Amber Nova's going for a Starfire look, right? Because it seems pretty obvious to a comic guy like me, but
might be because it seems like 50-50 on wrestlers that they're.
But she's a mechanic, so she's like Starfire. It's like, oh, you're the car. He's the finish or whatever. Or is that like a Teen Titans joke?
Are you just saying that because her name's Amber? Her name's not Chevy Nova. Her name is Amber Nova.
Yeah.
I thought this was actually a good match. Amber Nova's had a handful of matches. This is her first one with anyone coming out of the Joshi background, but it fit really well. So and they actually have her travel. She's one of their Jacksonville acquisitions who's now traveling with them. So it seems like maybe they see something in her and want to see if they can bring her up in the women's division. Fuego del Sol got not quite squashed by Scorpio Sky. He made Scorpio Sky work for him. He got the Fuego
He
del
was
Sol.
pretty over, man. I'm surprised at how many people chant his name and like him. I don't hate it. Surprised at that makes sense.
It's all about the Sammy's blog. Like everybody's chanting for him. People who watch Sammy's blog, I guess. But he's gotten a real.
See more than Sammy these days.
At some point, I know he was even on Dynamite, which I don't think this week, and I don't think Sammy was. But at some point, they're going to have to give him some main event TV time if they keep chanting for him this week. I actually liked that Amber Nova Yuka match quite a bit, and George Joel was out also as part of
Yeah, finally came back.
Yeah, got his first
So
big time in front of like a
is he
big
comfortable
crowd.
with the stable yet? Because
It
you
doesn't
see
look
him
like
coming
it.
out there and he
Well,
was
they're-
kind of dancing. Well, it's always a private party Angelica. I mean, he not dance with them, right? They're dancers. So, but then like it looked to me that he was first telling them not to come to the ring, but they came anyways. Because I could have sworn he like turned to them and was like that, and then went to the ring. But then they all followed him anyway. So I'm still wondering if
sure.
they were not gonna deal.
I had a feeling like, especially when he was going to go to the ring, like they were pushing him, or it felt like they were bullying him a little bit. And like, go do it, and he was like, all
Yes,
right.
that did come up. Yeah, then
Yeah.
they're saying because you pay your dues, right? That's what
Yeah.
you're doing, that type of stuff. Yeah.
Yep. And paying his dues meant being squashed by Luchasaurus.
Yeah,
who also had a
and
big
another thing we forgot to mention: Eddie Kingston was in commentary for this show.
Yes, he was. He was great.
Because and there are certain parts because in the matches there are certain things I'll get to whenever we get to those matches, but it kind of felt like he was teaching Big. Oh, sorry, I keep saying Big Show instead of Paul White. So it's like he was teaching Paul. That's really what it seemed like. And even Paul would say like, "That's a good one. I got to write it down." I'm like, first of all, you shouldn't really say that. And second of all, when you say it like 3 times during the show, it's kind of weird. It literally sounds like you're a student right now.
Maybe that's what he's there for. Maybe they wanted to give Paul some time to listen. But
but he was good.
They were doing that a lot with Ricky Starks on Dark for a long time. When Taz doesn't need anyone to do it, so maybe it just depends on who they want to warm up and what helps the crowd and what makes things pop. Definitely, Paul has a subdued presence as a ring announcer.
He's just not clever at all, man.
He's on a show with Tony Schiavone as his backup, who's also, he can be big, but he's not Excalibur big. Like Dark can go with Taz, and Excalibur will work just fine. And I suspect like Big Show and Excalibur, you probably wouldn't have to worry about that. But Tony and Paul White is a little different. And
I feel sorry for Excalibur in that position because I mean his play with his chemistry with Taz is good. I mean that's something that kind of built too. It's like it would sound forced on if you did that with Paul. I think
it's interesting. We'll find out because I was feeling like whatever that would be like is what it's going to be like on Rampage with Mark Henry.
The world's strongest announcer. Yeah,
exactly. So you know what? Although I did get one of my biggest laughs from the 3 of them during the Luchasaurus George Joel match when they made the old WCW reference about this isn't where the big boys play. And everybody laughed at it. Tony Schiavone was like, "No, don't bring that up. I still have PTSD."
Yeah, I didn't even get that reference. So okay.
So that was the old tagline for WCW Nitro when it first started. Was
where the big boys play? Okay. Yeah. That's a terrible tagline. Okay.
Yes, it was roundly recognized at the time it came out as a
I was like, I'm trying to think that maybe that's good. I'm like, no, don't
it was awful.
Being bad. Just seeing every bad.
Everyone knew it was awful when Kevin Nash and Scott Hall got on the show. They made fun of it all the time.
And Eddie did refer to his own being like out of shape thing. So I'm like, okay, that's good. Keep yourself aware of your problems. That's good. That's like if Paul said that I'm not clever at all. Like I'd be like, wow.
Had a really nice, I thought, a really nice tag match between Bunny and Maddie Winkowski and Chris Statlander and Tay Conti. But Jay still.
So my deal with that match isn't that kind of lopsided talent wise on one or the other. I mean, not that Maddie Winkowski's bad, but Bunny versus. I was like, the Thunder Rosa Statlander team is obviously way better. Or Tay Conti and Statlander are way better than the other 2.
Yes, and we're obviously. I mean, they're building Bunny up. And they're giving Bunny stuff to do. But
I like Bunny a lot. I mean, she's hot and she's very good at being the psycho girl and everything. Very good mannerisms. Isn't bad in the ring. That type of stuff.
Well, it felt like some of that was very much short. Bunny doesn't need it as much, but it felt like giving Maddie Winkowski some more time, getting her used to that kind of thing. And Statlander and Conti need it too. They've come along really, really fast. So it's easy to forget how relatively new they are. I mean, Conti. Right. I mean, Conti shouldn't be relatively new because she's been in the business like 6 years, but she's come along so far from where she was at NXT that it might as well be her 2nd year ever. It feels
but she is coming along great. I mean, I still like her a lot. I think another thing I like that again, because Paul White wouldn't say is Eddie Kingston made an Animaniacs for a reference during during that match. I was like, see, this is what I listen to. This type of shit.
Maybe they should put Eddie on commentary. He can.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, they did it for a while with Ricky. They did it for a while with Jericho, right? So just put Eddie on there. Shit.
That's right. Maybe when they have Eddie.
Because it seems like he's off of the Penta program now, right? Because now that Phoenix and Pac are back.
I don't know. I mean, they were together obviously when Pac couldn't be here, and we might as well talk about Pac is back. He came back the last episode of Dynamite, and all of Death Triangle was out in force this week for a rare Pac main event on Elevation, where he had actually a pretty competitive match with Chuck Taylor, which is also out, still minus Trent. So Wheeler Yuta still coming up, filling in the gap for best friends.
Yeah, and saying nothing, just being out there, but yeah.
And then I think the fact that like in his wrestling gear,
make an impression
with a mask on his face, so it was like, no, we're not even gonna let you, give the appearance of being able to talk. But and then at the end, Pac is in the ring with Phoenix and Pentagon, and out should come Andrade and all those people, and it looks like they are getting ready to have a go at it. Andrade starts taking off his coat and undoing his cufflinks. Chavo's there.
I was like, no. You knew that was going to happen.
You knew it was going to happen, but still,
no, not yet. We're not good and ready. That's after shit.
This Elevation crowd started to get really hyped up. They're like, "Oh my God, are we going to get an Andrade Pac match?" Which you have to know, like, no, that's going to.
I mean, you will, yeah, but not.
But they were like, "Are we going to get like the start of that here?" But I thought it was. I mean, that's a big Dynamite program with two of their biggest stars, and they were pushing it on Elevation, which is always good to see. And yet another reason why you got to watch these shows, even if not much else storyline wise really got pushed. The big bit was. That they brought out a gentleman from the crowd that they identified as the winner of a
contest.
They got
to book a match. Yeah,
that's right. Well, they labeled it as,
and apparently he loves Luther and wanted to put him in that spot.
Well, see, this was my feeling of this. So they had a gentleman who has been playing their new game, their new general manager game. They have commercials for in the middle of every episode of Elevation. And apparently, he won some sort of competition, and his reward was that he got to book a match against Lee Johnson. And he booked Luther. And my feeling is no one, and especially no one who was winning, and this guy looked like he was in his late 20s, early 30s. No one in his late 20s, early 30s who was winning an app game on iPhone is going to be a desperate Luther fan who is going to be booking Luther to match. This felt
like plants, right? This is whole
Luther,
thing was a work.
Well, I don't know about that, but it definitely, my first feeling was no. Luther was always going, was always going to be
all up and down, and Luther's the name you pick. I hate Luther. Like, I get it, but
if they had picked almost anyone else, I might have been able to believe it. But when he said Luther, I was like, no. You got there, and they said, okay, your match is Luther versus Lee Johnson. So you're going to tell everybody Luther.
Ringside, corner, or the match.
Right.
Come on.
I'm like, Rick, come on.
That's like, did somebody else get all the other matches and I got Luther? Okay. Like, it's better than it's better than watching a Side Owls or something like that, sure. But it's just,
I would have picked a Side Owl.
The list.
I would have been like, at least, could you turn it the other way around?
Then I do something to him.
I'd be like, can you turn it the other way around and be like, somebody's got to wrestle Luther, you get to pick someone? Because I might actually legitimately pick Lee Johnson. I don't know if I would ever legitimately pick Luther. I'd be more likely to pick Serpentico.
Yeah, because Lee Johnson, you're like, let me give that kid a chance, right?
Exactly.
Let me give him a good match. That type of stuff.
Exactly.
Like, come on, man. So
it had stakes.
We don't know if it's a work. We're thinking it's a work.
I feel like they told him what it was. It was like, this is the match, announce it. But it was a match with stakes, because although they probably should have made a bigger deal of this than they did, but part of the premise of the match, because it was the one from the general manager, was if Lee Johnson won, he would get a shot at the TNT title against Miro on Dynamite. And spoiler alert, Lee Johnson won. Because I'm trying.
Wait, so if Luther would have won, would he have gotten that title shot? Because now I'm thinking of what a Luther Miro match.
The way they nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that. But I think we've seen I think we've seen Luther in the main event on Dynamite as many times as we're ever going to see that. I don't think after the one time it happened, it's ever going to happen again. I think people would kind of like to forget that it happened. I mean, it wasn't awful, but people would kind of like to forget that it happened. But the way they were wording it, it sounded like it was like a Lee Johnson thing only. Like if he won, he got the shot, and if he didn't, then somebody else got a shot. It wasn't Luther. Yeah, yeah, because that's the nice young up and coming talent they want to spotlight is Luther.
He gets that rub. Yeah,
that's right.
That's like,
but actually, and that was one of my favorite bits, because after he won, not only did we get Andrade and Pac on Elevation, we got Miro on Elevation. Miro came out with the belt and his new creepy Bulgarian theme song.
Right. Okay. So creepy is what I wrote too, because I was like, this
Creepy.
religious undertone thing is kind of creepy, right?
Very. I mean, it's just sort of lacking like Gregorian monks coming out with him and chanting like the acolytes for
like he's going on the Crusades or some shit like this.
It did
The
seem like
Inquisition.
it.
No one ever remembers the Inquisition.
They should have given him Drew McIntyre's sword, but yeah, it was a lot like that. But he played it really well. He had a good promo there about how he was going to kill poor Lee. He had another great one on Dynamite. But my favorite bit was Eddie is still on commentary while all this is happening, and as soon as he sees it happening, he's like, "No, kid, no, you don't want this. You're not ready for. I know you think you're ready for this, but you're not." I mean, that was
doing you a favor,
over.
right?
Yeah,
Nice
exactly.
That's
putting Miro over.
So, yeah.
That's putting Miro over better than anything else did. I mean, and that's what the announcers should do. That was great. But other than that, there wasn't
God's favorite champion. That's his new thing now. Instead of
Redeemer.
It's way better than Best Man. So
it's much better than Best Man.
Yeah, way better. So glad.
And they very
it's
organically.
Kind of creepy.
Yeah, it's very creepy. They very organically moved over to him. Yeah, he's the Redeemer. He's gonna redeem himself and everyone he beats up.
Like is himself he gonna
himself and his flexible double jointed wife that he keeps mentioning.
Oh God, he's gonna come after Seidels and try to convert them from Hinduism. I was like, they're not actually Hindu.
I don't think they're gonna do that.
I know.
I'm sure there is a long list of people for him to squash, so this will be interesting. But what makes strangely in the 2-hour show, there was a lot less big storyline movement than there was in the very brief 45-minute Dark that also emanated from Dallas, where we had a couple of big promos moving right into Dynamite and 2 big storyline matches after weeks. It's got to have been at least 3 or 4 weeks that they have been building this Diamante Swole bit, then going back and forth, and Diamante causing the loss last week. And Diamante comes out and they start mentioning she has a promo. No, Swole comes out and has a promo about Diamante, and I figure, okay, so this is the next step in this feud. She's going to have her words. Diamante's going to have a match. She'll interfere. Nope, they just announced next Diamante versus Big Swole. I'm like, oh
yeah,
I guess we're getting the match now.
I guess this feud isn't over.
I was sitting there going, oh, I guess it's happening now, and it happened now. And I will say it probably helped being in the ring with Diamante, but Big Swole looked a lot better than she has in a lot of her more recent. Although she hasn't had a match in a little while, but she looked better than she has.
Yeah, sure. And Diamante, of course, also looked really good. And when I saw the ending to the match, how they booked it, because she won with her hands on the ropes, although it was a very weak hands on the ropes to me, because it's like she did it at the last count.
It was like a sit down, and then
that much pressure at the last second doesn't force someone down, but whatever. But then, they came back, and I guess there's going to be a rematch. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a rematch.
There has to be. This can't be over. I was actually a little surprised, because at first I was surprised. I was like, oh, we're doing it now. And then I was like, oh, well, I guess Big Swole has to win because she's the one that needs the push, not Diamante. And then she lost with some cheating, not a lot. It was really very evenly matched all the way through until she grabbed the ropes.
This could be like the Dark Elevation storyline that we talked about. That's just confined to that show, and no one who just watches Dynamite has any fucking idea what's up with these people. But they have to actually have their own story on the show. So.
Until one day they show up and have a beef on Dynamite, and somebody has to in 5 seconds explain everything that happened on Dark. Well, I'm wondering if that's
like, where the hell is David Lease?
I know. I'm wondering, but I'm wondering if the other big storyline match is obviously still Varsity Blondes versus the Acclaimed. Is that also going to be a Dark only feud? Not that Dark could be, some only feuds, especially from some upper mid-card teams. But yeah, that continued. Varsity Blondes and Dante Martin versus Ryan Nemeth and the Acclaimed was your marquee main event match for Dark. And where is it just you? Like the minute Ryan Nemeth walked out with the Acclaimed, I pointed my screen and went, "You're getting the pin. That's your job in this match."
Oh, of course, yeah.
To get the pin.
Because Nemeth is there
Dante Martin. It's not going to be.
Nemeth is there to be the goofy heel and to make other people look good. I mean, just like his brother was for a while. Although I'd argue he was a lot goofier than his brother. But I mean, like that's what he's there to do. He's not there to pick up random win. He's the one that lost to who did he lose to? Remember
Wheeler Yuta. He lost to Wheeler
Yuta. There you go. Yeah.
Well, I feel unprepared because I do not have my AEW depth charts with me, although I assure you they do exist. But if I did, I would point out to them about how clearly both Varsity Blondes and Dante Martin and the Acclaimed are clearly above Ryan Nemeth on the death chart based on who they win to and who they lose against. And it's very clear just from looking at that Ryan Nemeth had to be the one who took the pin, and indeed he did. But we got another.
And he took the pin from Dante too, right? So
Dante,
basically just ended up being Dante versus Ryan. Yeah.
But we got, well, I
mean,
mean,
the Acclaimed rap this time was like he went after the Second Amendment because, of course, you're in New Texas, you have to do that.
You want to talk about cheap heat? I know we skipped over it, but there was a Jade Cargill. I'll leave you to talk about it. There was a Jade Cargill bit and some stunning.
Okay, so this is the Jade Cargill thing when she came out. Oh my God, yeah. So wait, where's my notes on this? I was like, keep talking while I'm looking for my notes.
So Jade Cargill comes out with her lawyer Mark Sterling in what I can only barely call blue jean bikini with a vest and cowboy hat.
That's true. Yeah, it was a choice outfit. That's what
it was. They picked that for their market, and they come out to the middle of the ring so that Mark Sterling can talk for quite a while, and then build up to Jade's punchline from which is the only thing she's allowed to say anymore.
Well, so this is the thing about Mark's promo, right? Mark's promo. It's like it was a cheap heat fest. All he did was basically say, when I go to a town, what should I say? Oh, so I'm in Dallas, so let's make fun of barbecue, right? But
I laughed at the vegan barbecue line.
That joke doesn't work in Austin. That joke does not work in Austin.
But they're not in Austin. They were in Dallas. That's true.
And yeah, that's something that's curious that he said that, but not in the Austin show, right?
I legitimately laughed at the vegan barbecue. That actually, I got it. I was like, that's cheap. That's cheap heat, but it's funny cheap heat.
Super cheap heat. Then he talks about being from New York, which is like it reminds me of the Pace McConaughey commercial. New York City, like that's kind of like what he's going for. And then he's just like, oh, and the weather sucks. I'm like, wow, you're just going after everything. It's like you might as well make fun of the Dallas Cowboys while you're up there. Which that joke only works in Dallas. So there you go. But yeah, it was just funny that it was just a complete cheap heat fest. Like someone said, here's an outline of how to get people to boo you. Go have at it.
And so compare that to the rap from the Acclaim, which in its own way was also a cheap heat fest, but
right with the Second Amendment and all that stuff.
Much better presented with all the Second Amendment stuff, with all the cowboy stuff.
Yeah, he made fun of that. But Johnson & Johnson, which I'm figuring out some shit from what he did. Like maybe I don't read the right news channels or read the right news channels. But the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, does that cause blood clots? Because that's what he said.
A very small percentage. That's why it got paused and not being allowed to be given out for a handful of weeks while they tried to figure out if that was something that would happen a lot or if it was just like a really
I don't know efficacy, but I just didn't know it was that bad. Damn, that might kill me basically. Yeesh. And then Ezekiel Elliott, I hate the Cowboys. I don't even like football that much anymore, but I mean, I definitely wouldn't keep up with the Cowboys. Did he abuse his dog or something? Is that a story?
Like that. That's something I don't know the full story, but I know there was something with fighting dogs.
Okay. Well, he touched on it, and I guess that was a cheap heat. You know what? Oh, they left that's the Cowboys heat. I guess they left that for offended people.
It felt like his were a lot more researched. Like the Mark Sterling ones were like, oh, well, I know this. This jumping. His were like, oh, I know what I'm talking about. I'm going to get in the weeds with some of this stuff.
Mark stuff is basically like you write up a template and then you have fill in the blank for this for depending on town. But yeah, I get that's very right. They was a little bit more research. They didn't go after Julia really that much this time, which
a little bit. Not much.
I think it's hilarious when they got to Julia. So.
I know it was enough because they were doing because Anthony was doing some talking about it because they were getting her reaction shots. That feels like that's starting to become part of the act. Is you get her because the director is now looking for her for a reaction face for Julia's sad face.
Yeah, but they didn't say. Well, there's a reason. Because I mean, they lost the match, or the Acclaim lost.
That's right. Because then you got to have Varsity Blonde. You got to start letting that Varsity Blonde's love into your heart whenever we hear that.
Hey, Dante Martin kicked butt this ass.
He really
so much ass.
He needs his brother back. Because as soon as his brother comes back, I got a feeling they're going to start flying up and getting a lot of.
I get the feeling that he's going to be ahead of his brother, man, when he comes back. He's gotten so much ring experience right now. And his finisher is awesome looking, man. That flying stunner, basically, that's incredible. Yeah, it's great. He must be the highest jumper in the.
He's got to be. I mean, he just gets completely
that vertical's insane.
People, it's insane. Yeah. And then they gave Brian Pillman the mic. He's getting really good on the mic. You can see
a little tete-a-tete with them, yeah. Yeah, because Griff is doubtful, man. He's way better than Griff on the mic.
It's at one point Griff was the one who was doing a lot of stuff, but you can see how it's completely switched because they also, the Varsity Blondes, and we'll get to it, also got like a small bit of mic time on Dynamite. And then once again, they gave it to Pillman. And he's like leading
he can
all the
talk.
talking stuff.
Yeah.
Because he can talk and he's got the charisma. But he had a really good.
I'm telling you, it's my issue's not really with him, man. It's the other guy. VP's a star in the making. I think. He's already got the fire. He's already got everything going on. It's just he could maybe get a better gimmick, and then that's it.
He is 100% a star in the making.
And not being a tag team.
Everybody else is going
carry Griff all the time.
Griff can go in the ring. He just doesn't have any of the other stuff. And the three of them together right now, no, the three of them together.
Varsity Blands.
The three of them together is an act. No,
good job.
They get a stellar pop whenever they come out. You're starting to hear that.
Also, the spelling bothers me, man. Yeah. It's ES when you're talking about the people. When you see
it should be.
They leave the E out.
Yeah,
maybe when you was a kid, that shit gets to me, man. I'm like, ugh. It's like the Weekend. Dad just saying there's the Weekend. I'm like, you're missing an E, man. I know it's marketing, it's how you do, but it just looks like you're misspelling shit all the time.
Their Weekend is coming to, just on a tangent, Weekend's coming to Houston in February, and Teresa and I are going to go. And I was asking
which weekend?
Like,
so don't do that.
I was going to ask her if she wanted to go, and the only thing she could tell me is she misspelled the Weekend, and I'd be like, no, I haven't. And we went back and forth on that longer than anything else.
I think
I think so. But yeah, the great I like the bit about that is a mic gently placed on the ground. That's a great.
That was funny. Yeah,
that did really well. And then the other.
He had to say something. I mean, Bowens at least took a break from going after Julia, but I'm like, you did your damage. Like a good job, Bowens. You didn't have to say anything. You already did your work.
It worked. It's a great feud. I agree with you about some of the blandness when it was just the two of them. For whatever reason, adding Julia, I think, makes it an act that
she's like the sympathetic girl, like no one beat up Julia. I mean,
exactly. I think it makes it an act that you shouldn't break up right now.
I just don't get why cheerleaders intimidating in a ring at all, but sure, whatever. She didn't work.
Well, she wasn't a Thunder Rosa, but I actually have some thoughts about that we'll get to in Dynamite. The last other match worth talking about, because this show opened with a promo from Evil Uno and Stu Grayson pushing their tag team prowess and how they're getting themselves ready for their big match on Dynamite, the 5-on-5.
They let Stu talk too. You don't see him talk too much on the shows. It's usually
they let Stu talk and they let Stu go. Stu looked great. I mean, they weren't in the ring too long against, like, let's face it, a couple of jobbers who I think have been on the show before, but they were basically there to get beaten up by Evil Uno and Stu Grayson. They got beaten up.
Zach Mason and Warren Johnson are not the best.
Those are not great ring names, but that's okay.
Warren Johnson's actually that sounds like former presidents or some shit. Like, that's not a good wrestling name.
You know what? That should be their tag team. They should come out with like little wigs and they should call themselves the former presidents. Mutton chops.
No, this is.
That'd be.
I mean, maybe it's better than Warren Johnson. So okay, I mean, it's something, right?
All right. Well, if you don't like that, I'm going to go back to the Super Canadian, and that's what I'm talking about. Right. I'm giving you like.
Well, ask Warren Johnson how he feels about that.
After great gimmick. After great gimmick.
Poser.
Shooting them all down.
Canadian bacon.
But that,
15.
That was a really good. It was a good warm-up match that led into one of the better Dynamite openers that I can remember. And that's saying,
my gosh, that
Dynamite
rocked, right?
Has had some crazy openers, but they just went all out from the all cowboy opener to the all.
With the silhouettes, right? The silhouettes looking like cowboys, but then like looking normal. That was a very good touch.
That was a good touch. And everybody wearing the Dark Order colors and everything.
Yeah.
It was a good
Although
touch.
Heyman didn't do the sign.
No, he did just the Heyman thing, but
it's not a full conversion yet.
It's slowly there. They're taking their time, which they should. You don't want to, because now is not the time. You do you save the full conversion for like the pay-per-view or something. They're getting there, but now is not the time.
I mean, at this point, it just almost seems like a foregone conclusion, right? It's like ceremonial in sense, and that's about
unless they have some incredible swerve that people will go is not stupid when they see it. But they don't usually do that sort of thing, so we'll see. But and of course, because it was in Charlotte, North Carolina, you knew that they were going to do a baseball thing. I didn't realize until like
basketball
came out.
They leaned totally into Space Jam, but he's I
didn't realize
Jordan, right? So,
I didn't realize they were doing Space Jam until like the third person came out. I assumed it was just all a Michael Jordan UNC.
No,
thing.
they had the logo too. Like it had the.
I realized after
I knew
it came out that it was a space.
They had the little basketball thing, and then like Nick Jackson tried to dunk and like missed.
Well, that's been his. It's sad. It's funny. That's been.
And he's not 6'6". They introduced him to be 6 foot 6 inches.
That was clearly
6'6". I'm 7 feet, man.
They were clearly making fun of everything, like giving them back. And Don in his basketball shorts and his playbook and everything.
Yeah, which apparently his legs are like cold. So there you go.
That may be one of the best douchey heel entrances I've ever seen.
Although usually he says not from North Carolina, but this time he said he was from.
It's because he was there, and they knew that it was going to get, even for the heels, it was going to get a giant.
And of course, Doc Gallows had a 69 on his back.
Of course he did.
He had every single big joke out there.
What else was he going to? I mean, I would have been surprised if he didn't.
Right.
I'm sure. I'd be willing to bet they made that for him. I'd be willing to bet they made that for him before he even asked, man. We came up like jerseys, and he was like, "Can I get 69 on mine?" We're like, "We've already made it, dude. We knew. Yeah. Everybody knew." No, but I mean, they had to say something because you had 7,000 people chanting along with North Carolina.
Yeah, I missed that when he used to do his intro all the time.
Yeah,
like when they listed all his accomplishments and stuff. I used to love when they did that.
Well, I think they do it when he's coming in by himself. It's just lately it's been all with the elite, and so they can't do the whole.
It definitely was a grandiose entrance for both squads actually.
I mean, this went through 2 commercial breaks, and yet it did not feel slow at all. There were all kinds of near falls. There were all kinds of Stu Grayson. They gave him a lot. He looked great, even when they completely.
Silver's back.
I mean, even when they completely missed catching him from a corkscrew moonsault off the top rope, it looked like he went through the floor. He hit it so hard.
Yeah,
it looked like everybody separated and it
didn't look that bad of a botch to me, but the announcers kind of like indicated it was a botch. Honestly,
it looked bad. It looked like he fell through everyone and landed on his head. Then he gets right back up and starts brawling with Doc Gallows. I'm like, how are you still walking, man? It looked like you knocked yourself.
No, he's been out for a while, right? Just that year to go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like everybody's. It seemed like this was the show for it, unfortunately, because there were a couple others. We had John Silver. They gave John Silver a ton. It's like they're like, all right, we're going to turn John Silver into a big time white meat baby face, and everyone's going to cheer for him, and we know it. So
he's over.
He's way over. The only person who got more was Hangman himself,
right?
But so John Silver was the one where they gave him the Indie Taker while trying to do the dunk, which is the funny thing is it's one of the bits they do in BTE right now. That's Nick Jackson's bit is trick shot, and he does
so that's the basketball thing
all the time.
And you know what killed me about the basketball gimmick too? Because like Tony made a 5 slam a jammer reference, which is like, that's a big
wrong
Estonians. That's a big deal. That's came from college. And I was like, and it has to be for the elite, and he's gonna that has to be the correlation.
And it was in fact, it was a North Carolina team that beat 5 Slam Jam.
Yes, NC State, Jim Valvano. Yep, rest in peace. Yep, I know. So Lorenzo Williams. I know. Yep. Fully aware of the history.
I've told you that whole story, haven't I? About where the divided loyalties of that in my house.
Yeah, you did tell me about
my dad's a NC State graduate. He was a class of '83, so. That was a big deal for for them to win that tournament.
Yeah, because Dean Smith was still in North Carolina when that shit was going on.
Yeah, because the year before that, because it was back to back. '82 was Dean Smith and UNC, and then '83 was Wolfpack, and then of course.
One thing, folks. The one thing I might know even a little bit about as much as wrestling and not more as basketball. So if we get on basketball tangents, it's probably usually my fault. So I do have to apologize. The draft is tonight, by the way.
I know, but you're not going to get to see. But then last year,
at least they're not going to draft Doc Gallows at number 69 or whatever.
I don't think they are. Although he is tall.
He's tall.
He wouldn't be the first basketball
player has no endurance.
Who went into wrestling. And then, so the big question is where we go from here, because we've been going under the impression that Hangman and Omega is the main event,
right?
All Out. I am still willing to bet that Hangman and Omega is the main event for All Out, but
it did something to my logic, because usually I think if there's a stipulation, that's the side that wins.
Right.
That's usually what I approach things. I'm like, if they're FC, I'm like, oh, obviously they're going to win because that's where the stipulation is, right? They don't have anything to lose. But no, the elite won. They won this match. The Hangman and all them. There's no tax spot for Dark Order.
Yeah.
There's no, at least right now, no challenging Kenny for the title.
So the two things that immediately occurred. Number one is that AEW has done such a good job of telling their long-term stories that if this was WWE, people would be throwing stuff at the ring because they'd be feeling like they just got screwed over for cheap heat again. But AEW, everybody's giving the benefit of the doubt and going, they don't normally do things like this unless it's going somewhere.
I mean, I think it's gonna be Christian before they get to Adam. That's the way they keep talking.
That's a TV match, though. That's not a pay-per-view match. I mean, no shoot on Christian. Christian and Kenny Omega is not a pay-per-view.
But they're going to take their time with the Page Kenny thing.
It's 2 years. I don't know. It feels like now is what it feels like.
What they did. He can't have that match.
But I'm willing to give this like the audience. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt because at no time have they ever done this for cheap reasons or have they ever gone 180 on a storyline because fans found out about it.
Just to fuck with you, like that. None of that going on. Yeah.
So it feels like if they're doing this, they're doing it for a reason they thought about it. The only other thing that I can think of is that. So, not right after this. I think there was one other match after this, but obviously there was lots of big stuff. But the other big thing that happened on this show was that Tony Schiavone came out and announced that the second episode of Rampage will not, in fact, be taped at Houston, where Shamik and I were expecting to get to see Rampage taped. It will instead be live from the 20,000 seat United Center, home of the Chicago Bulls. In Chicago, from a special called The First Dance. Darby Allin comes out and says he'll wrestle anybody in Chicago, even if the best in the world.
The best in the world.
I mean, they could not.
I don't know. That was CM Punk's tagline.
More clearly said, CM Punk is going to be on AEW starting on August 20th at the United Center. If they'd had a skywriter come fly over the stadium and write it in smoke letters in the sky.
I mean, at this point, I'm going to be obsessed if he doesn't come out. I'll be upset with AEW. I'll be like,
the only way they could, the only way they could have been.
Unless it's like Daniel Bryan that comes out instead.
Yeah, right. Even that, at this point, even that would get if Bryan Danielson came out at the United Center instead of CM Punk, he would get booed. Everyone would be shouting.
Oh yeah, in Chicago, hell yeah, he's being booed. Cole Caban's gonna get cheered like crazy.
At this point, they could not have been any more clear than as if CM Punk had actually come out on stage and said, "Hey guys, I'm gonna be wrestling in Chicago for AEW."
Right.
If they're just doing this to fuck with people, or if they're like, "We want to get everybody prime, but we don't have the deal done yet," I mean, you want to talk about
like if you say you're the best in the world, that's what happens. If you say smells like something, Rock's gonna come out. You know, like that's what happens.
And then everybody
consequences, actions have consequences. So this is one of those things.
Well, then and they're leaning into it. I mean, then everybody, as soon as they say it, everybody in the entire stadium starts chanting CM Punk, and not in the "we hate you WWE, you're putting on boring matches, so we're going to chant for CM Punk," but chanting it because they're getting teased with it, and the directors are filming them and showing everyone saying CM Punk. I mean, it has to be. It has to be.
You don't do this for nothing. Then what was it all for?
Exactly. So, with that being said, and that is 2 weeks before All Out, and it feels a little rushed. I mean, that gives them 3 weeks to fill a 20,000 seat stadium.
I love CM Punk. He can't get there soon enough for me.
So that like the only thing that I can see where they would put off Hangman, because now it feels like the time for Hangman. The only other thing I can come up with besides they have some sort of story point that I just can't think of right now is they've gone, all right, CM Punk versus Kenny Omega for the title is
what a match that would be, though.
Giant pay-per-view match.
CM Punk versus Kenny, that would be
that might get us 200,000 buys instead of 100,000.
Yeah, that's a money. That's a draw.
That's a money match. So I can see them going, all right, let's put it off for a little bit more. And of course, I mean, let's just get it all out now because it's all happening now. The other big rumor that they're not hinting at as much yet, but will be, is that Bryan Danielson's also signed and will be premiering at the Arthur Ashe Stadium show in September. So then that's 2 weeks after All Out. Then do you make, because your other giant match is Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson for the AEW title.
Which would also be great.
So do you do that for Full Gear, which would be in November, and you put off for one more quarter, and you put off Hangman until maybe you do Winter is Coming again in December, or Hangman versus Omega in at Revolution, and assuming, and I have to assume that if they did those matches, you'd still have Omega go over, and if Hangman is the man, if Omega is beating CM Punk and he's beating Bryan Danielson, and Omega and Hangman is finally the man to take him down, even though you had to wait an extra 6 months for it, does it make him bigger, or does the wait hurt him a little bit? Because now really feels like
you got to keep shit fresh, right? So yeah,
I don't know if they can keep him peaking, because he's peaked twice now and has come down. I don't know if you can keep him peaking and keep the audience primed for him to win. But I say that they fucked with Kota Ibushi in New Japan Pro Wrestling for 2 years, and still, when he won the title, it was a big deal. So it is possible to do these things.
It was a bigger deal because they fucked with him for 2 years, right?
Yes, and they did it just right.
Maybe that's what's happening here.
Along the way, and this was very much a New Japan match. They were just beating on Hangman and showing that he could take it, and he had the heart to take it. I thought for about 2 seconds, are they going to have him?
Yeah, he like ate finisher after finisher after finisher, and he still kicked out, which I was like, okay.
All of them.
But then they didn't. I was even honestly expecting him to kick out of the one-winged angel.
I thought about. I was like,
kicked out of the one-winged angel, but then nah. Like,
okay, they keep teasing
it.
They keep teasing it, but and we've all been assuming that's going to be part of the story of the pay-per-view match. I'm like, are they going to do that here on TV? No way. Right. And then they didn't. But for like a second, I was like, no, they're not going to do that.
Yeah. I mean, too, for a second, I was like, he's going to kick out of the one-winged angel? But no, he did not. That's what got him.
That's what got him.
That's what ended the match for them.
Yeah, it's too early for that. They could have had him kick out of like the BTE trigger or something, but they didn't line him up for that.
Well, we had a lot going on in the show. They couldn't fit our buddy QT Marshall on the whole thing with this Tony thing. We're going to have to wait until next week to figure out what happened.
Wasn't he supposed to come out and do an apology? I'm bummed.
He said he'd rather wait for fans in whatever next city they are. I don't care. I'm like, they're probably like, no, our show has too much exciting stuff going on, so let's just push it.
The next city is back at Daly's place for homecoming. And I'm assuming whatever they're going to have QT do will tie in somewhat into Malachi Black versus Cody, which is the main event for homecoming.
Make it interesting.
And,
so yeah, he's going to kick some more people in the face, which is great.
Cody got up. Cody got booed. So they go to Cody in the back to cut a promo. He gets two words into what sounds like a standard Cody promo, and Malachi Black comes out of nowhere and kicks him right in the face. And everybody was booing Cody and cheering Malachi Black. So it feels like going into this, Malachi Black's going to be the big. He is already in what has been like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. He's already more over in AEW than he ever was.
Is that next week or is that in 2 weeks?
Next week. Next week is their match.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one a lot. They've done the build right, and again, it's like everything that I even want to try to forget that the QT Cody feud even happened when you look at this stuff. It's like he doesn't have to do much, but you're just so stoked and so invested in what's going on because you're talking about how Cody is getting booze. It's like, well, if he didn't help Malachi Black look like such a fucking badass when he comes out there, then maybe he wouldn't get booed so much, right? But Malachi's coming out there and doing awesome.
They are making him a star. These people, it was great. He comes out, they brawl to the back, brawl to the front. People try to break him up. Fuego del Sol makes the worst mistake of his life, comes out, tries to help break it up, and he just eats a black mask.
He won his first match the other day, and that's what happens.
You know what? I think that crowd popped almost as loud for Fuego del Sol as it did for Malachi Black. And then I thought I heard
for Fuego del Sol getting his face kicked in, or for Fuego del Sol in general?
Both. Well, he came out. I think they were still popping for him
because he was over. Yeah.
And then they just sort of gasped and felt sorry when he got knocked the F out. I mean, pretty bad.
Yeah, because Malachi Black didn't even black mask Cody. By the way, they haven't named the move in AEW
Not yet,
right?
I haven't heard it yet. Everybody just
I'm going to keep calling it the black mask until they give me another difference.
Everybody just calls it that because that's what it is, but I haven't heard it yet.
But he black masked Fuego for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Cody's even just like a straight high kick basically to the face.
Just like a knee or jumping knee or something.
Fuego.
Yeah, there was once. This is about a year or so ago when they were building to the parking lot fight where Ray Phoenix came flying out of nowhere and did a flying jump kick right to Orange Cassidy's face, and I think it completely potatoed him and actually knocked him out on the ramp for real. And this didn't look quite as bad as that, but it looked pretty bad. I mean, if this was a really worked kick, then Malachi Black's even better than I think he is, because it looked like his foot went all the way through Fuego del Sol's face.
Oh yeah, no, he got rotation. Yeah, for sure.
It was like Billy Jack's like, I'm gonna take my right foot and I'm gonna put it on the right side of your face.
Well, Fuego's got his mask like turned completely around. Like
that's the only thing that they didn't do.
Me on the other side.
That's the only thing. The only thing that would have made it better is if his mask got turned all the way around and his hair was sticking through the eye holes. That would have been great. That would have made it even better.
You guys listening?
You guys missed out.
It'll get Fuego more. It'll get him more over. Trust me.
Yeah, this was even better. Although I really appreciated it. This was even better than the Ricky Starks FTW celebration. Even though he came out with a full marching band and everything, and Taz is.
But it's so formulaic, the whole thing. I didn't think it was clever.
That's why it's good. It's not supposed to be clever. It's supposed to be. I mean,
but like Ricky didn't say anything funny. He didn't do anything. He totally was going Rocky Starks again.
Yes.
And like,
yes,
which is not a bad thing, but he's definitely channeling that guy. But even Brian Cage comes out, does this thing like it's like I knew this was gonna happen. He didn't make me like, oh, I'm so glad I got to watch this. It's like, okay.
I thought he was funny. I think he's got
especially from last week when he's like, oh, I know what I'm doing around that time. I was invited. Yeah. It's like we're gonna go storm the celebration, they're gonna piss off, the feud's gonna go on.
Sometimes that's what wrestling's supposed to be. It's supposed to be exactly what you think it is.
I was expecting some better writing. Yeah. I would do something. Even like the
were you expecting the marching band?
I mean, no, but it didn't really add too much to everything.
The guy got a drum thrown over his head.
They're in the band. Why kick their face in, man? Why beat them up? That's what I was like. Why are they getting like?
Because he's just randomly mad, and they are unfortunate.
Yeah, but they're musicians. Come on.
They deserved it. That drummer deserved it.
They played while the Titanic was sinking.
That drummer deserved it.
You're cutting deep, but I'm a drummer, so you're like, oh, that's dirty. Okay.
I think that's really what it is. You just have it because
like he's miles away, bro.
He smashed that drum over that dude's head, and you took it personally. I thought it was.
That's the other sad thing. They destroyed a drum, not just a drummer, but the drum itself.
Yeah, they destroyed the drum and the trombone, but nobody cares about the trombone. But
see, maybe that just colored my whole opinion.
I think so. No, because I really liked Ricky's promo beforehand because everything he said was based. I mean, the best heels are the ones who say basically true things. I don't know if Brian Cage went to check on him in the hospital or not, but when he's saying like, "While I'm being out here being the face of it, you're soaking off my charisma," and
but that's also a cliche. We've heard
but
that.
It's also but it's also true. Like some of the times people say it and it's not true, and you're like,
did he even have to add that? I still don't get why they don't like each other. It doesn't make me more emotionally invested in it, but I guess for some people it could. So,
all right. But I'm like, in this case, it's true. Everything he said about Brian Cage, I'm like, no, this is true, and I could see why you'd get really annoyed by this after a while because everything.
Where was Hobbs, by the way?
Yeah, not up there. I don't know. I guess they want to.
I don't know why. That was weird.
They flew Hook instead.
I don't know, he was injured or something, but.
Maybe they
like Ray Phoenix, like please stop getting injured, Ray Phoenix. So maybe, Hobbs.
Yeah, I know. Well, maybe if they figure if Hobbs is out there, he's not going to run, so you'd end up having a fight. They don't want to have the fight,
right?
Whereas if it's just Ricky and Hook, you'd understand that they would.
I mean, barring injury, that's the only good storyline reason for him not to be out there. So,
but it keeps things moving along, and then we had yet our second straight defense of the IWGP US Heavyweight Championship. But before that, though, this was a big.
This is full on partnership, man. We are.
Oh, well, I mean, this is hands holding because we got like 3 different New Japan bits here, and I don't know if you watch any New Japan, or I know you don't watch as much as I do, but so right before the championship match comes up, we get a video feed, and it is none other than Hiroshi Tanahashi up on the screen. And for people who are like, those are just consonants, I don't know what that means. Hiroshi Tanahashi is like the Ric Flair of New Japan Pro Wrestling. He is one of, if not the best wrestler New Japan Pro Wrestling ever put out. And he's not in his prime. He's in his early 40s, so he's just past the peak of his prime, but he can still go like crazy.
Yeah, they call him like a legendary master or something like that.
They call him the ace, the 1-100, like basically like the best of the best of the best. And he's in the part of his career now where he spends most of his time getting like the next level of top guys over. He's like the top guy that you can beat to show that you are now a top guy. And he's always going to have great matches, and every so often he'll get like a surprise win, like he beat
Well, I'm sure he's gonna have a great match against Lance. But the thing with Lance, because this match that came on, I love seeing King Haku come out with the son and everything.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, they are gonna have, and they're gonna wrestle on a New Japan event, but it's that. He was on once before. He had a really good. He had a match with Chris Jericho at the Tokyo Dome right before COVID. That was their match, and he actually came on the 30th anniversary show to wish him a happy birthday. But it's it's like when there's like just like there is anywhere else, just like in like AEW WWE. There's like 3 or 4 top tippy top of the card guys. And Tanahashi is one of those top tippy top of the card guys who is going to be in the main. If he's going to be in something, he's going to be in the main event. So, the guys that they've had coming over are good guys, really good workers. Some of them kind of past their prime and, made it of the card, something like that. It's good to see them here. But Tanahashi coming over and coming on the show and saying, I am going to challenge the winner of this match that's like,
makes it a big deal.
It'd be like Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins coming up on the Giants and like, I'm going to challenge the winner of this match or something like that. And it's like that level of bit, right? If Okada is the stone,
to where Mox had to do his own retort promo against the whole thing. So that's
so he comes up and he says, whoever wins between Hikuleo and Lance Archer, I'm going to challenge. And there is in fact a New Japan Pro Wrestling pay-per-view happening in Los Angeles in 2 weeks. And that's where they're going to do that match. So, and King Haku came out with his son, Hikuleo, even gave somebody the Tongan death grip.
That's a big dude. Like, he's way taller than his dad, man.
He's a big dude. And you notice they had to add, he's like a legit, yeah, he's like a legit 6'8". I know they say Lance is 6'8". Lance is really like 6'5" or something like that. So I noticed they were adding some inches to his height because they've been billing Lance as 6'8" for so long. So now that someone who's legitimately 6'8" there, they're having to say Hikuleo's like 6'10" or something like that.
Just inflate the other guy, right? It's like inflation.
But yeah, he's a big dude. They had a good match. I mean, Hikuleo's really green. He's young.
It was really slow. It was really slow, but at least it was short. But it was really slow.
It was just,
but it was impressive that Lance blackouted him.
Blackouted him. I mean, a 6'8" dude, and he gave him the blackout.
Yeah, that's probably the most impressive blackout that I've seen him do so far.
He did one
Bear
Bronson
was a big one too, but this was bigger than Bear Bronson.
Well, he's taller. I don't think he's as heavy as Bear Bronson, but he is so much taller though. Getting them all the way.
But yeah, the match was kind of like it was like I said, it was slow, but at least it was short. Like it didn't get more time than it should have. Obviously.
No, one commercial break, just about right. It was mainly there to make us interested in Lance Archer again. Like, look, he's won a championship.
Oh, and an influx of New Japan. So now that Lance won this match, apparently he has to go fight Tokyo.
No, he's going to go to LA. They're going to have that's going to be the main event of the LA New Japan. So New Japan runs a dojo in LA.
Yeah, they do.
And they do a weekly show.
So he's gonna be out of the US touring then for AEW. He's gonna be touring with AEW for a little bit then.
So Tanahashi's coming over. They're doing a pay-per-view there. They brought like a bunch of the Japan guys have come over for it. Jay White's gonna be there. That's why he's an Impact.
Switchblade Jay White.
Switchblade Jay White. Yeah, he was on Impact last week, just like cutting the crap out of they actually
we saw some of that
for the first time ever. Switchblade Jay White and Kenny Omega came face to face, and he's going around calling them like Low Wrench Bullet Club, and you guys are out there too sweet and everybody, like it's still 2013, and but he's gonna have a match it's called Resurgence. It's a big pay-per-view that New Japan's putting on. They're doing it in the States because everything in Japan's still under lockdown.
Oh yeah.
So this was really like AEW cross promoting that, because that is a partnership.
Super, yeah. That's why this isn't just like a handshake. Like there's an actual agreement to the because because you're heavily promoting the other promotion.
And then almost at the they're heavily promoting the other promotion, and then almost at the end, John Moxley comes on and says, Tanahashi's been ducking me. I've been trying to wrestle him. Now he's here. Well, I got all these other contracts I'm sending to Tokyo, and I'm going to have a match with somebody. And the rumor is there's an agreement for Moxley's opponent at the pay-per-view to be a tippy top New Japan guy. Nobody knows.
Okay, but no one specific yet.
No one specific. So I don't know.
What about the guy that everybody seems to like with the short arm clothesline? Okada? Is that his name?
Okada.
Yeah. Everybody seems to love that guy.
Yeah, he's not coming over. Because they have a New Japan has like a big pay-per-view like 2 weeks before All Out, so there's no way for him to go through the quarantine. Is
that Wrestle Kingdom or is that another one?
No, Wrestle Kingdom is is basically right around New Year's Day. So it's they do a big what you would call a pay-per-view event They don't really do pay-per-view. It's interesting that the LA shows the pay-per-view because mostly they make most of their money off of the gate. Pay-per-view is not like a really
but gates.
Yeah, well, I mean, up until now, gates were big, but they don't do a monthly. They do about eight or nine big shows a year, and then they do regular touring around that. Wrestle Kingdom is in January, is in the first weekend of January every year. And that's their big
Around the Super Bowl. So,
Oh, I take off a day so I can stay up till 4 a.m. and watch it. I mean, that's the WrestleMania of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and it's
right, yeah.
It almost always has one of, if not the best matches of the year on it. Usually a couple of them. Okada is the guy. Okada is like Omega's nemesis.
Yeah, Okada and Osprey, the white guy Osprey, I hear about him a lot too.
Osprey's out of action right now with some neck issues, but hopefully he will be back soon. But Okada is generally considered in ring the best wrestler there has ever been. And some of that sort of depends on what kind of stuff you like, but he is everything you've heard. Osprey is great. It would be great if they got Osprey over here. His girlfriend used to be in AEW before she went over to WWE.
Really? Who was she?
She was B. Priestley. Was his
the British witch. Yeah.
They'd still have her, but she couldn't get a visa to come over during the pandemic.
Okay, I remember her for sure.
Yeah. And those guys are all great. I mean, it would be amazing if they ever did get Okada to come over and be in an AEW show. That it's not going to happen probably during the pandemic, but that would be a big deal, especially because the three Omega Okada matches are the three highest rated wrestling matches of all time. And if they had or three of the four, if they had their fifth one in AEW, that would be like a big giant.
So he probably flip his shit if he saw like Okada in an AEW ring.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Immediately.
That's what to look forward to then. If that happens.
Exactly. That's why people are freaking out about the Tanahashi thing, because that's like a big giant door to get. Tanahashi's the guy who coined the phrase "the Forbidden Door." Like when he was in his build up to the Chris Jericho match 2 years ago, he's like, I'm going to step through the Forbidden Door.
That's why Mox mentioned that phrase specifically. Then.
Yes. Yeah.
So just being a metaphor, but yeah.
It's a metaphor. I
guess it's still a metaphor. It's a specific one day.
Everybody used it, but yeah, that's why. So that's a big deal. And then
you finally had the FTR Power and Powerful match,
but such a letdown. I mean, there's nothing you can do.
It was too short.
Well, you saw what happened, right?
No, I mean, saw the match. Did something weird happen?
Yeah, during almost towards the end, they are setting up to do the Power and Glory on Ortiz, and Santana runs over and pushes Cash off of the ring post. When he falls down, off the turnbuckle. When he falls down, he hits his arm on the ring post and he scratches it. He cuts it open and blood is going everywhere. So he immediately jumps off of the ring post, runs over to the doctor. You don't see it. There was like one close up of him after the match. So Dax immediately goes over to Ortiz. They're like, you can see them have like a really, really short conference with the referee.
Yeah, because I was like, how did Dax get like a solo pin in this match? It was an attack pin.
No, yeah, that's why. He basically went over he kicked Santana in the face to get him off the apron, and like they goes like, we're going home now. So they go home now, and that's why they had like a little goof up, because he gets Ortiz in a pin, but the ref isn't counting it because because it's not supposed to be.
Wait, just because he scratched his arm? Because we see a lot of blood on this show, and like that seems like a weird one. Unless it was just a bad artery or something.
It was like a bad. I think there was probably a concern it may or may not have been broken. What I've heard is it wasn't broken, but I haven't heard how bad the cut was.
Well,
I mean, this was a lot of blood. This is not like blading blood. This was like a lot of blood where there shouldn't be blood.
Oh wow! Okay.
So
enough to like drop a conclusion
you
to the match
him,
right then, right?
No, you see him immediately enough that they just stopped right there, basically. But
so that changed the end of the match. Because there's a lot of these matches are like, oh, it went on too long. But this one, I was like, oh, I could have used more of this.
Yeah, I thought it was short. But
they could have too, right?
You could see it happening, and I was a little worried because you see Cash jump off the apron and walk away right away and never come back. And you only see him over at the doctor.
Like head to the locker.
No, he goes over to the corner where the doctor is. And the cameraman actually goes over and films him talking to the doctor for a little bit, so you know what happened. But like as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, they're gonna end this match right away. And then they did. They had to mess up with the pin where the ref couldn't figure out that they were trying to end the match. So then they
that's
like the bad brain buster, and then they're like, he's like, I think you can't hear it, but I think he's like yelling at the ref, like, we're going home, count it. And so they just count 1, 2, 3, and it's over. And you can actually see you can actually see the ref and Santana like talking to Ortiz on the mat, and I think they're telling him like, it's cut, but we think it's not
Wrap
too
it up.
bad. Well, no, like after it was over, I think they're telling him how it was. But yeah, it went. I mean, that's the thing. It's just it's not even a botch, but it's just like one of those things that just happens.
It's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate, and it just because apparently they've been planning this match for like 6 months, and
oh, poor guys. Yeah.
Stopped.
So do you have any news on whether he's okay or like?
All I've heard is he had to have some stitches. No news on whether it's broken, just that he had to have some stitches. So if it's only stitches, he's probably going to be back pretty quick and be able to wrestle. And I'm sure they will run this back again. But
they have to.
Not go.
I mean, the whole thing's still going on, right? The inner circle pinnacle. So it's not like this is the blow off or anything like that. It was good, and I guess you can look forward to them having longer matches in the future. So
did not go how they wanted it to go, but that's all right.
Okay.
Versus the Jurassic Express and Christian Cage versus Hardy Family Office, which I guess went exactly how they wanted to go. Jungle Boy still super over. They were trying real hard to get Luchasaurus super over, so they let him do a 3-man German suplex, and it was ugly, but he got everybody off their feet, which is impressive in its own way. I mean, they all fell down, but he got him over.
And this is another match that I kind of wish was a little longer.
Yeah,
honestly, when I saw this one.
Well, you got the 6-mans are always kind of like that, but I don't know.
They kept talking about Kenny about Christian. That's what I brought up earlier. Is that like I think they're kind of trying to at least put the seeds in. I think remember when Christian first came in, his first really tete-a-tete was with Kenny before anybody else. Kenny remember interrupted him, all that bullshit. But like now, I think they're kind of trying to revisit that, or at least plant that seed again in our minds. Like, hey, this could be another thing. That's what I meant. Kenny.
Definitely agree with that. I definitely think that is true. But I don't think they're thinking. I mean, I could be wrong. If they are thinking about for a pay-per-view, I'm thinking that's probably a mistake. But like Tony Khan has said, Christian is his favorite wrestler, and that's why he's in the promotion. So maybe
really,
yeah, that's why he hired.
I like Christian, but favorite wrestler, Christian. Yeah. Okay.
I guess you gotta keep someone who was like 15,
I went like this at the convention thing, and like I was hoping that he'd look at me like
nothing. He's like, no, not until you're a paying customer in front of me.
Yeah. Also, like Deep Britain, she did nothing. So.
But that still seems like a TV match. I mean, honestly, that feels like a TV match. I can see them doing it as a TV match now. It'd be a good one to have and get it out of the way.
Right.
But they still got all this Hardy film. I mean, they setting up a feud now with Blade. They've had the Matt Hardy blow off match, so now they've had Blade come out with the brass knucks to
right. So this isn't ending. It's still going to be the HFL.
I half expected. I mean, I didn't. I was like, they're not going to do it because it's too much. But when Blade uses the brass knucks and everything, I thought, well, maybe this is the time for Orange Cassidy to come out and be like, oh, I've seen you do that brass knucks thing. I'm not going to let you do that to anybody else. But they didn't do that.
I figured that's what they're going with it.
That's what I thought. But
this feud's on its last legs, in my opinion. Unless you do something like with the George Joel thing or something and revitalize it that way. But otherwise, just straight up Hardy Family Office versus the Jurassic Express is kind of a.
There's so many. It's either, depending on your point of view, it's either the good or bad of the Hardy Family Office, that there are so many people in it that you can have. It's kind of like Pinnacle. You can have multiple different dimensions of, like, you can have Jurassic Express versus TH2, and then Jurassic Express against Butcher and the Blade.
Is Jack Evans injured, by the way? Because he hasn't been on TV.
He's been injured off. I haven't heard anything about him being injured now. But I know he has been a couple of different times, which is why Angelico keeps going in and Jack Evans keeps being out of it. So,
but I also think Angelico is more over than Jack Evans.
He did. Some of that's just because he's been on TV, and Jack Evans has had some bad botches. But yeah, but the dancing thing is just, especially, and it melds with Private Party really well.
I'm like, I can't wait for all them to be faces again.
They're still, these hot shows. Everybody who gets a big pop. I was actually kind of surprised Orange Cassidy wasn't on this at all, because. Everybody gets a big pop they're putting on TV because, they have Jungle Boy comes out to the Jungle Boy pop, and then right after that, Thunder Rosa comes out to the Thunder Rosa pop for her first match as an officially signed All Elite talent. With
That's true.
Julia Hart. Julia Hart came out, had a nice little promo from, I noticed they didn't let Julia Hart speak at all for her match. They had Brian Pillman and Griff Garrison do all the talking.
I guess she was busy eating French bread.
Maybe that's the thing. Well, it feels like they have been really warming her up on Dark and Elevation the last 3 weeks. She's been having a lot of matches with a lot of the really experienced people. I mean, she had a match with Yuka, and she had a match with Sheeta that actually made it look really good. So it seems like they've been putting her in the ring recently with a lot of their
like testing her through the fire almost. Yeah.
Well, just like you're like, all right, this is what it's going to
fire.
be like. We're going to put you in the ring with our best people so you can learn what you need to do on the show, which is what
it's
they
like
do
any
with Red
sport or
Velvet.
anything you competitive, right? You get better by competing against people who are better than you. You don't get better. I mean, your ego is fine when you compete because you were less than you, but that's not how you actually get better.
Right.
So yeah.
So they put her here with Thunder Rosa, who's going to show her, and get her. So it seems like they want to do something with her. They recognize the value in the total Varsity Blondes act, and that it's a little bit better off if everything is wrestling as opposed to just having like a valet or something.
Right.
They also announced, I was kind of surprised by this because I thought maybe the whole NWA association was over, but they announced, no, we're going to have title eliminator matches for the NWA Women's Championship, the winner of which will go and challenge Camille, the current holder of the NWA Women's Championship. And I don't know if that's going to happen on Power or maybe
Dark or Elevation.
Or if it's not going to happen on. If they're going to have that match on AEW, it's going to be on either Dynamite or Rampage.
Okay, on TV.
Camille will come here, which would be interesting because that's the first person. That will be the first person who is, well, sort of the first person who is an NWA talent. I mean, Thunder Rosa was basically an NWA talent when she came here, but then she basically stayed. Camille is probably not going to do that. Camille is really connected heavily to NWA. I don't think she's going to leave. Camille's interesting. She's green. She's not like she's really big and really strong, which is basically her MO.
Like Nyla.
Except she's not quite as heavy, but better because she's a bodybuilder. She was like Braun Strowman's ex-girlfriend.
Like Jade?
Like Jade. Think of like a white Jade from North Carolina. That's what you're gonna.
All right.
Yeah.
Can I stop thinking about it, or can I keep thinking about it? Just kidding.
Actually, that's exactly. I mean, Jade. Actually, like a Jade Camille match could be really interesting. But her Camille's is kind of like Jade in that her best matches are with some. Like she had a 20-minute time limit draw with Thunder Rosa that was really good. But Thunder Rosa made it really good. Like when she's in the ring with someone who really knows what they're doing, she looks really good. But I don't know if you would put two green people together and get anything interesting out of it.
Yeah. Thunder Rosa seems like took all of Britt Baker's time this week because Britt Baker was hardly on TV. She's kind of
no, just long enough to say she had a broken wrist, but she was going to keep wrestling.
Is that a legit injury? Is that actually
happened? She legitimately broke her wrist during the Nyla match.
Oh man, okay.
And didn't win anyway, but she said she's not.
And it's not even like her legs. She can't do like the role model thing, which I'm sure it's better to have your hand in your leg.
She said
the role model thing was funny. It'd be funnier if you come out with the wheelchair in your hand.
With the hands,
pretty funny.
No, she said she was taking the real. She was taking the real baby faced approach with it. She said she wasn't going to take any time off and was just going to wrestle with it. So we'll see what
but then she has to say the words like bitch and everything to make herself seem like she's a heel still. So.
Yes, even though nobody buys it. But I'll be interested to see if actually Camille comes over from the NWA and we get an actual NWA another championship match here. But it's interesting that they're still keeping, even with Thunder Rosa here and Serena Deeb here and none of them holding the title, they're still keeping that partnership alive, and we're doing NWA matches on that. I think maybe some of it is building up to that NWA Women's Empower pay-per-view that's coming up, because they've been doing a lot of cross promotion with that, with Impact.
That's a good name for the pay-per-view, Empower.
It is, isn't it? I mean, they've been doing a lot of cross promotion with other promotions. Impact's been doing that a lot as well. So like they really want to make something out of it. So, and Ring of Honor's been doing stuff with it. So it seems like they really want to make something out of it. And they have to bring all their women from other promotions because NWA's only got like 2 or 3 women signed to it. So
because AEW keeps taking them. I mean, it's obviously collaborations. Like we said last week, it's WWE versus everybody else at this point. So this is another example of another collaboration that the AEW is doing.
It will be very interesting to see if you get a bunch.
They use a collaborative Space Jam apparently. So there you go.
They get a bunch of really good women wrestlers from across all of them, all the different small promotions and indie promotions, and several AEW women wrestlers go over there for it. That would be very interesting. I'd like to see that. So
I think other than that, I mean, the labor of Jericho is the only thing we have left to talk about.
Of Jericho. Well, we mentioned the first. I know we said there's going to be a. I know we said there is going to be a women's match. We didn't say it's going to be Bunny versus Layla Hirsch. We haven't seen Layla Hirsch on TV in a while, And I think this will be her.
Fun.
I mean, she's been in front of a crowd before during Double or Nothing, but this will be the first time in one of like the giant crowds in front of giant groups. That'll be interesting. And we have that great Miro promo. You know,
Right, but it was just like what he did on the earlier. But it's
But
still
they're
to get
always
the whole
great.
creepy religious redeemer,
That
God's
and he's
favorite
like,
champion.
my two only bless a vengeful God and a double jointed wife. I mean, these are great.
Like, is
promos.
Mordecai gonna fight him? 'Cause I'm not sure he
Better. He should. No, these are great promos though. How could they? How could WWE screw up Malachi Black and Miro?
Oh,
so
and this
badly?
week,
They're
what
not
was
gonna
it?
do
My
so.
double jointed
My
wife.
double jointed wife.
Like,
They just keep getting better.
being all holy kind of, but then you keep talking about how, I mean, kind of low key, you keep talking about how you want to bang your wife every episode. So it's like, okay, like we get it. Your wife's hot. You've seen her, yeah. Captain Marvel, yeah, we got it. That whole thing.
But yeah, it was just the main event, the second labor of Jericho versus Nick Gage.
It was MJF on commentary, which I think is something that we're gonna have to get used to.
For all of these.
Great.
That's all right. He does good. He does really good commentary. So I'll tell you, I watched these. I watched it with my son, who
loved it. Wow. Okay.
Loved it. I was like, I need to cover.
He loved it.
He's like, no, I must see it. And like during the explosive barbed wire death match, he was covering his eyes a lot, and during this, he wasn't.
Sorry,
so
kid.
That was interesting. But no, like they were into it. They believed that was real. But
yeah, and I don't think there was any conventional bleeding. I think it was actually all real.
From what I have heard, I've heard mixed things. From what I have heard, almost everything you saw was gimmicked, and it was almost all conventional bleeding.
Oh, what? I guess he did a good job because honestly, Gage didn't bleed that much at all.
No, just a little.
He was not. Jericho was bleeding.
Like when it's interesting in that like when Gage does these, his big promotion is Game Changer Wrestling, and this is where he it's
NDK all day.
NDK. Well, you know, it's a funny thing. So this weekend, Game Changer Wrestling had its big pay-per-view. It's homecoming pay-per-view, and Nick Gage, who has been that champion, had a big, death match, championship match against Matt Cardona, Zack Ryder.
Oh, right.
GCW
yeah, because a lot of people are like, how's that going to go? Like, basically, Matt Cardona gets in a death match or a hardcore match?
He got a hardcore match. He was covered head to toe in blood, and he won. Matt Cardona beat.
Woo, you know it.
A lot of people made that joke. Matt Cardona beat Nick Gage, which you figure he kind of had to, because you don't want your because you know your champion was going to lose on Dynamite, and you don't want your champion getting pinned. But you want to talk about heat? Like they say that nobody gets real heat in modern wrestling. Like when he won, and the GCW guys hated Matt Cardona going in there. He's been being a great heel, and so when he won, they pelted that ring with beer bottles. Like
that's a good deal, unless it was bad booking. But yeah,
that was good booking.
Not like Bash of the Beach type of shit.
No. This was the kind of heat they wanted. They want a heel champion, which he is, and there was some real heat. I don't remember the last time I've seen an audience like that.
Wait, is it Cardona getting heat or Gage?
Cardona.
Oh wow.
Gage is Gage is like Gage. So like Gage is a baby face in GCW, and he's on Impact now. I think he's signed with Impact.
Yeah, I know. I just liked him a lot. I was a big fan of Zack Ryder.
I liked him, but Nick Gage is like a big baby face in GCW. He's like their hero. So to have like the WWE guy come and beat him, all the GCW guys hated that. They had to know.
Oh yeah, like heat, carpetbagger.
But I think exactly like that. But I think it got way. I don't think they realized just how much legitimate heat it was going to get. So it was great. And he was doing like the Shawn Michaels bending down, blessing the title while they're throwing their beer bottles at him. And he cut like a great heel promo afterwards, where he was like, "And I'm going to be your champion, and I love all of you." And oh, it was fantastic. It was such a great douche. So,
but on this match, like I don't know, I'm glad he wasn't terrible. I wish he was a little bit more athletic. Like I just don't think I'm into like hardcore death matches that much.
They are very much not my cup of tea. I remember
there's not much like I like seeing skill and everything, but just literally people just making each other bleed and like okay.
Yeah, I mean this had a little bit more to it.
In that.
This had a little bit more to it than like some of these things that I.
Yeah, it was not nearly as bloody as what I was expecting.
I remember everyone had like this discussion during the first Kenny Omega John Moxley match at their lights out match.
The one they went through cables and everything.
And they had like the table full of barbed wire, and they pulled back the matting on the on the ring, and they had like the chain and everything. And I remember watching that going like, this is fine. I'm
Or
actually
even the dog collar match that
dog-
with the nice art.
yeah.
That was
I'm
or
sitting
with
there going like,
Brody Lee.
this
that was
is
a bloody
fine,
match.
but I don't want anything
The
more than
bunkhouse.
this, the bunkhouse. But this was like, I was like
It was-
like this Nick Gage.
It didn't
it's
drag.
not-
It was the
drag.
right amount of time.
Like if it was just two guys there just shattering light tubes on their heads or putting light tubes on a chair while somebody sits on the ground waiting to be thrown through it, I'd be bored out of my mind, and I'd be like, this is stupid. There's no reason to do this. And I've seen some stupid stunts that they've done for one of these, but I mean, this had basically the flow of a high level wrestling match, just with glass. And like, I mean, they put the glass up, and then the Hurricane Rana off the ring post to the glass worked just right.
Yep.
And they
That
didn't
shit
try to do
mattered.
it
Yeah.
did. And
There's a lot of
did
good
it,
aesthetics, but it's like, again, it's one of those things that I definitely wouldn't want to see one of those matches every episode. Like, you bring it in once in a while, that's fine. It builds up Jericho's like, like persona more, right? Like, oh man, you can go through all this stuff and still win. Like,
I've never liked hardcore matches. They're not my thing.
I mean, me either.
Maybe
AEW
like
just when they got so hardcore back in the day, but also I was 14. Like, I was just into different things back then.
Yeah, but you go back and look at it now, you're like, no, this is just stupid. I mean, what is
especially if they go on for 30 minutes and you're okay. So this didn't. I mean, Jericho went over because the Judas Effect is the most protected move in AEW. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the guy went out like a light over everything and then set up a very good match for next week. Or very interesting. I mean, not good.
Yeah, it's coming back.
The Judas.
When's the last time he had a match?
I don't know. I still heard from, because I never watched WCW that much, but from what I heard, they tried to write him as like a Rock ripoff at some point, right?
Yeah, something like that. Well, they were always trying to figure out to make, like, he could do stuff in the ring, but he
had charisma. He could talk, but he never found the right thing to get into.
Well, he was always getting either overshadowed in the ring by Rey Mysterio or overshadowed on the mic by Eddie Guerrero. He just had the bad luck to be part of the Luchadors at the same time. Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero were there at the same time.
I'm sure the Buffalo Bills in the 90s were good teams, so they didn't just face everybody else at the Super Bowl. Like,
but it's like, it's not, it's like, what are you going to do? You're in the same conference as like the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
And what you could be better than everybody in the East, but it doesn't, and you probably would beat anybody in the East, but what's it fucking matter? You're never going to get a chance to show. So, well, the thing I've always heard about Ubuntu is like Guerrero is like that. When he's really good, he's really good, but when he's really bad, he's really bad, and you don't know which one you're going to get.
Well, either way, you're not bored then, right?
Right. It was like he would try a lot of stuff. Some of it stuff that he could do, and some of it stuff that maybe he could do, but he'd never tried before. And if he landed it, it would look great. But if it missed it, it would look terrible. And
I mean, when the last time I saw
what was going to happen?
It must have been the stupid Mexicals thing with WWE, right? Wasn't he in that with Psychosis?
I wasn't watching at all. I wouldn't be surprised because
they were landscapers.
He was
on gear. They called it a Juan Deere. It was very, very racist.
I know he was with Psychosis a lot in WCW, so I wouldn't be surprised, but I was not watching WWE.
No, that was there. I forgot who the third guy in there was. It's also it was a famous Mexican guy, but it was a very, very terrible gimmick.
What are you telling me? WWE put on a terrible thought, semi-racist,
not only gimmick? Terrible, but terrible because it's kind of racist, but completely.
I would say for WWE, kind of racist is actually a step up.
Yeah, it's like they're like, we didn't make him wear a sombrero in the ring, just on the way to the ring. We gave him his siesta every day. Jeez.
I mean, they have a group now called the Lucha House Party. They had No Way Jose, although apparently the conga line was in fact very over. So what do I know? But
oh yeah, I saw that thing. It looked kind of dumb, but
people always clap for it. He was on Slammiversary show doing it, and man, he was over with that crowd.
I mean, if the crowd's having fun,
the conga line.
So yeah, I guess we'll see what type of shape he's in because we haven't seen Hoobie in so long. But
it's a weird. I have to assume
bringing out just random people for all these labors.
They wouldn't do it if they didn't think he could get a good match out of it, because they're really pushing these things.
That's Jericho.
So far,
I'm pretty sure Jericho is doing this as a favor to Hoobie, man. Like he's just like, hey, all right, let's get you going here.
Probably, and it's like a good back reach, and he knows like a lot of people who are watching AEW, a lot of them probably did watch WCW back in the day, and this is gonna reach back. You know what? And it reaches back to like a one-off line from 2 years ago, and like, Everything
And funny
matters.
thing, MJF was like, "Who?" And now he's all that. Now he's hiring him. And
He's like, you know what?
There
I
you go.
did Google him. We now know the big joke is everyone's saying like the fifth labor has to be Lance Storm, and that has to be
No, that'd be funny. Yeah, because all Jericho's old friends, right?
That's right.
Yeah, it should be nice.
I don't know what they're gonna do, but it'll be interesting. This was a hot episode. Many big things happening, and laying down lots of groundwork for what's gonna happen. So it'll be very interesting. Next week, Malachi Black and Cody. So I'm actually really looking forward to. That's really good.
And what a good build. And not even, it doesn't take over like every show. It's like, what, 2-minute segment, if that, like every show, but what an effective 2 minutes each show.
But, very effective.
I mean, all you got to show is that kick hitting me in the face. And that's, they're like, all right, I'm sold. I want to see him do more of that.
That's right. In 3 weeks.
And you know what you said the other week, which also they're very leaning in on, is this whole like color dichotomy where it's just like black and white, like and everything with the graphics and everything. But it's good. You like to see just a classic type of thing. There's no like, ambiguity for what's going on. It's like, oh, there's evil, there's good. Damn.
And now they're calling it the House of Black. I guess I don't know if that means he's going to start to have a faction. He specifically mentioned it. In the thing, and it's on his TV show. He's like now because like
I guess that's better than saying Black House.
He said, well, he said something like now you
Private Party shows
the
up.
House
Like,
of Black. No. So
you ain't Malachi that black.
That'd be a really good line for a commentator, but no commentator on WWE could use.
Paul, you listening? I'm feeding you these for free.
I don't think Paul could get away with that. Maybe Taz might be able to.
Oh yeah, Taz.
Mark Henry could get away with it. Actually, he's probably the only one who could get away with it.
I'm very curious to see what he's going to be like because I mean, his promos like we're actually pretty good during his. There were a lot of good things about his title run in WWE, but like he was getting better at speaking. But I'm like. But commentary speaking, like that's another level, right? But you said his podcast is successful, and so it obviously has experience like behind the mic.
It's so good. Now Bully Ray and Dave LaGreca could carry that a lot, but still, it will be interesting to see.
Who's commentating with him? Who's the play-by-play?
I think it's Excalibur, isn't it? It's Excalibur and Mark Henry.
Oh, okay.
Is what they say. So yeah, I think that will be.
That is not Tony.
Excalibur is going to have to carry a lot of that, which is fine. He can.
Oh, Tony's gonna be busy with this QT Marshall program. I forgot about that.
That's right.
So yeah.
Well, or helping his best friend, Britt Baker.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Lots of interesting stuff. Yep. So they're back in Daly's place next week, then Pittsburgh the week after for the
homecoming.
And then Houston and the United Center. And yeah, that's gonna be.
We're not gonna see CM Punk show up on our show.
I'm
still gonna change his name.
I hope he comes out during dark.
Maybe he just comes out this high.
They should let him come out during dark and wave and be like, "Yep, I'm here. Bye."
They do that. They do that a lot of times on dark. Just bring people out just to keep you fresh in their mind. So
it will be very interesting to see what they do.
They won't. They're gonna save it for Chicago.
No, they're gonna save it. Well, unless they really need to market the hell out of it to get people to buy tickets.
Oh man, didn't you find that one ticket to that show?
What show?
For
All Out. I should. I found the one and I didn't buy it because I've been like, well, I'd be going by myself. And
that was All Out. It wasn't for this.
No, it was for All Out. No, I have like 4 tickets for the Houston show, but I know I found.
No, I meant for the upcoming Chicago show. That'd be funny if you. That's one.
No, that hasn't gone on sale yet. No, I found was like the one ticket for for All Out and Rampage and Dynamite. Now I should have gotten it because apparently All Out has set. Well, it was right on the entrance way, but also All Out has apparently set the record for the highest secondary price ever for wrestling tickets. Like $300 a ticket is the cheapest you can get in now.
Damn.
And that one I found was on the ramp, so I probably could have sold that for $1,000.
That's the time. That should be like your
next time. Next time I see one of those, I'm like, I'm just gonna buy it, even if I'm not gonna go. What was I thinking?
He's gonna call you soon.
That's right. He's gonna have to.
He'll be like, you have enough people. Just tell Jordan to call me when he's ready, and that's it.
The truth is the truth.
And still, I'm not usually into that catchphrase, man.
Love it.
It's like worse than it is what it is.
It's like the list of things that I'm right about and you're wrong about. The truth is the truth.
Okay, Jericho.
the varsity blondes, QT Marshall, all this stuff is good. The only one that I legitimately agree is not good and I don't want to see any more of is anything with Joey Janela
QT Marshall, you're not really into him.
QT Marshall's fine.
Oh, we didn't mention. We should end the show with this, right? That Joey and Sonny did show back up.
Jesus God.
They did show back up, and it's still going to keep going. And since Josh is already tapped out, I'll go ahead, folks. So what's basically going to happen from now on is that they're going to tease this breakup, which you've probably seen the storyline before because it's not new. And then he's going to disappoint. Joey's going to disappoint Sonny each and every week whenever they fight. And then it's going to eventually lead to a real breakup at some point. So that's where this is all going.
I can't imagine what purpose there is for doing any of that. Why don't they just let them have the breakup and get it over with? Why are they dragging it out? Why are they doing any of it?
Like, who's this helping at this point?
Nobody.
It doesn't really help Sonny.
I mean, I guess it gets Sonny on.
Well, Sonny just wanted to act pissed off every week because that's what's going to happen.
Let's Sonny have some mic time and get some, but
yeah, that's the only good thing out of this right now. And I like Joey. It's just, this whole thing is kind of dumb.
This is terrible.
Yeah.
At least they
at least he didn't say frustrated again.
Thank God.
Maybe that got put to bed.
Maybe they finally figured out.
Would that help you with this whole thing if like that got put to bed? If you said
maybe
frustrated with 2 hours,
when they tried it in front of an entire crowd of people at Daly's place and all 5,000 people sat on their hands, they finally got the message like, nope, this is not getting over.
It's like Jeb Bush, please clap.
He could have. I mean, he basically stopped short of saying you can clap now. Nope. Maybe they're moving on. No more go-go bars or Marvez or anything.
He said no more mommy milkers because it was all Marvez's idea. That guy, he's a cat. Right. So it's all him.
Well, they're not in Florida anymore.
Yeah. So you're going to hear that come up all the time because I'm pretty sure every time he fucks up, he's going to somehow blame it on. You would think just somebody ran up
It was funny
each time, but it's probably going to be Marvez each time.
So. Yeah, of course. It was funny once, but it's not funny anymore.
Yeah. Dead horses, right?
Yeah. Pretty much. All right. Well, on that note, I'm going to call this episode "Dead Horses." On that fantastic note,
yeah, nothing beats it.
That's like the tagline for the world's worst lunch meat. Dead horses. Nothing beats it.
You got something else?
I'm writing that. I'm groaning, but I'm also writing that down because I'm 100% going to use that one day.
All right. There you
go. And then get attacked by PETA. All right. Well, this has been an eventful week. Next week looks like an equally eventful week. And
Malachi Black versus Cody. That's the thing we're really looking forward to next week. So
well, I mean, at this point,
that's got to be the main
just a countdown to CM Punk and Bryan Danielson, and nobody's going to be paying attention to anything else till those guys show up. You know,
it's going to be clobbering time.
Well, Living Color is out there, like following AEW on Twitter, and I mean, people are just basically warming up to start singing "Cult of Personality." Anyway, I mean, the first time that actually plays in an AEW show, people are going to.
Oh my God, the crowd's going to pop like crazy. You know, it's going to be ridiculous. He's probably just waiting, man, because he said he's been talking forever, right? Like these talks have been going on. He's probably waiting for crowds to come back to really make it a big deal.
Well, it's probably not worth it's probably not worth the price they have to pay to have him.
Oh, I don't know, man. If I was from Chicago and I was into CM Punk, I'd probably pay be going like a finals game.
Yeah. No. What I mean is like for what they'd have to pay him, it's like no reason to do it for promoters. No reason to do it if you don't have crowds. Like it's something you're only gonna get the most out of with crowds. And then the Bryan Danielson stuff's probably just like kismet. It just happened that his contract ran out now, and WWE wouldn't let him go to Japan. So good luck, WWE.
Right. Well, also you keep releasing people, so that doesn't help.
You keep releasing really talented people. Like you can't figure out what to do with.
Read your contract a little bit better, guys. Put an NDA in and and then have him drop right into a hot feud. Like, you know, you can't get much luckier than that sometimes.
Yeah, especially with where they were at. I mean, they reignited Cody super fast, just in time for him to leave to go do his other show. But that's okay.
It's like Cody was just in a dormant state of vegetation during the whole QT Marshall thing and all this bland talking and his bowling shirts.
QT.
No, not poor QT. He gets to have a stable that he's the head of. He gets to sit on the steps like an idiot and look at matches. Yeah,
I know. It's like a low rent Tony Soprano.
Anyways,
but he's no Malachi Black, and neither am I. And neither are you. And on that note, what I am is Joshua Starnes.
And I am Shamit Ghosh.
And this has been All Elite Reviewing. Cue the music.